I've spent years testing porcelain versus clay teaware, and today I'm going to settle this debate once and for all. Porcelain or clay? Today I'm going to settle the debate once and for all, but not in the way you might expect. Because here's the thing, choosing your first gongfu cha teaware isn't just about aesthetics. It's about unlocking the full character of your tea. It's also about finding the teaware that works for you and your budget. And if you get this wrong, you could spend hundreds of dollars on teaware that doesn't actually make your tea better. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which one to start with. Later in this video, I'm going to show you the teaware we use when we're doing tea tastings in the shop or at tea events out in the wild. The big decision. When you first dive into gongfu cha, the big question is, do you get a porcelain gaiwan or an Yixing clay teapot? Porcelain is the universal translator of teaware. It doesn't hold on to a flavor, which means you can use it to brew any tea. For example, you could be brewing tea with some of your friends and start with a Bai Mu Dan white tea. Then you could use the same porcelain gaiwan to switch to a high mountain green oolong. And finally, you could finish the session off with a cooked puer, all using the same teaware. It's versatile, clean, and gives you a pure taste of the tea. One of the things that's really cool about a gaiwan is you can use the lid as an aroma cup. Remember, we evaluate the aroma of a tea not by the liquid itself, by the residual aroma that's left behind on the porcelain. So a lid works as a perfect tool to evaluate the aroma. Oh, fruity and floral. But clay has a memory, and that changes everything. The mystery of clay. Clay teapots like this are porous. They absorb the essence of the teas you brew. This means the tea sessions become richer as the tea seasons the clay. A clay pot can take something like charcoal roasted oolong or an aged raw puer and amplify its depth in a way that porcelain just can't. Part of that's because the clay has a high iron content and it's able to achieve slightly higher temperatures. This sounds amazing, right? But there's a catch. And I'll tell you why you shouldn't start with clay just yet. Here's what I recommend. If you're just starting out, I recommend starting with a gaiwan. It's easy to clean, versatile. Remember, you can use it to brew any kind of tea. It's fun to use, though it does take a little bit of practice getting the hang of it. One thing I often tell people when using a gaiwan, don't fill it all the way. Just fill it till about 3/4 full, and that way it will give you a chance to pour it without burning your fingers. It's forgiving, easy to clean, and versatile. It lets you experiment with many different kinds of tea without locking in the flavors. And once you've discovered your go-to tea, then think about getting an Yixing teapot or a clay teapot that you can use to accentuate the flavors of that tea. Maybe you're obsessed with high mountain oolong or an iron goddess of mercy. In this case, I definitely recommend reaching out and getting a Yixing teapot that would be appropriate for those kinds of tea. It's worth investing in a clay teapot once you've discovered your particular favorite style of oolong or style of tea, and then you can invest in that teapot. At that point, it's worth investing in a clay teapot and dedicating it to that category of tea. So when we're doing tea tasting events, I use a professional jending bay or a cupping set. And the reason being, well, one is porcelain. So it's not going to have any real influence on the flavor of the tea. If I were to use a seasoned clay teapot like this, it would be really hard for you, after tasting the tea, to replicate that flavor at home because you wouldn't have this piece of teaware. My idea about this and my thinking is that I want it to be transparent. So I want you, the tea drinker, I think of you as a tea buyer. The way I think of myself, I'm a tea buyer. I buy tea, I sell tea. In your case, you might not sell tea, but you're buying tea. And so what happens is, if you're a tea buyer, you want to be sure and be able to buy the tea that you know you like. And you want to have confidence that you'll be able to reproduce that flavor in your home. So the way it works is, when we brew in porcelain, the tea isn't influenced by the porcelain. This is something that you can replicate by either using a gaiwan, a lidded cup, or a jending bei. If you know you like the tea out of this teaware right here, then you know you're gonna like it when you brew it at home, as long as you're using porcelain. It's also similar, a flavor produced in this is similar to something you'd get if you were brewing it in a strainer in a mug. So the reason why that this type of teaware is the most transparent, and there's not any sort of influence that's gonna come from the teaware that's gonna elevate the flavor of the tea, that you wouldn't be able to create on your own. So for that reason, out of respect to the tea buyer, we use this teaware as our transparent tea tasting device for brewing tea here in the tea shop for tea tastings. So which do you prefer, porcelain or clay? I'd love to hear your choice and why in the comments. And if you want me to show you my top 3 beginner gaiwans and Yixing teapots, let me know. That could be the next video. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and check out our newsletter for a free 20-page guide to tea. See you next Tuesday at 2 for Tea Tuesday at 2.